Good morning. Good morning. So many of you have already seen several times this morning. Veterans Day in Chicopee is always a little marathon. I want to start by saying thank you for coming out. Thank you for honoring our veterans and those who we've lost. Formal introductions of all attendees and elected officials will be at the luncheon after, but I do want to point out that we have every level of representation out here this morning. For those that can't see or standing in the back, from Congressman Neal, Representative Arriaga, we have city councilors, councilor-elects, Mayor View, assessors, elected officials, the treasurer. The audience today is filled with representation for their constituents, and every time I invite them to come out, they show up in a force. So I'm always so grateful for the support that you give me to support our veterans. I was updated and aware. Congressman Neal is with us this morning. He is not able to join us for the lunch, but he always loves to share a few words. So I'm going to give him the podium now to share with us his words before the wreath-laying. Congressman Neal.
Thanks. And thanks to the great job that Chicopee does where patriotism really counts. There was a time when I was a young man that it seemed as though in Chicopee there was a VFW or an American Legion in every neighborhood. And I think it was the long-standing commitment that the citizenry of Chicopee made to serve in our military during some very difficult times. This morning I awoke to a very gratifying story, and it reminded me of being in Chicopee as well, that after 80 years, the identity of a World War II veteran has finally been established. And I call attention to that because a nation must have a memory, because Chicopee always, when it comes to service, has a memory. So we honor not only our veterans today that are with us, but we honor those veterans who have passed in succeeding wars from the time that President Eisenhower formally established Veterans Day. But I think that we need to remind ourselves that just at the time I went to Congress, we were celebrating the collapse of the Soviet Union, the end of the Cold War. And everybody thought, wow, we're witnessing what people said could never happen. And there were years of a bit of a lull in terms of national security and challenges, because the nature of the threat had receded. Well, contrast that with where we are today. Whether it's in Israel, in Gaza, the Ukrainians, and you should know I am fully in support of the Ukrainians. Their gallantry, and against all odds, they have stood strong. But it's still America that makes the difference for the Ukrainians. It's the America in public opinion that will continue to make Israel strong. And I think that sometimes in the din of ugly debates, it's easy to forget the consequence of what America says and does every day. But here in Chicopee, we all know what you said and did along the way. So Veterans Day or Memorial Day here in Chicopee is always special, and that's one of the reasons I'm only too happy to accept the graciousness of that invitation. One piece or two pieces of good news, I think, that the Soldiers' Home in Holyoke is underway. And a long battle, and I know that Paul Barabani is here. He stood with me through those very difficult months. But the Soldiers' Home in Northampton, the Veterans Hospital in Northampton is doing fine. That's part of the commitment we have. And the last point that I think is really essential, the PAC Act. What has happened to transform long-time cases that many veterans thought could never be acknowledged or honored? They are now. There's a little bit of a wait, but it's pretty good on an overall basis. So I want to thank the mayor, congratulate him as well, members of the city council, Representative Arriaga and others that are here today, because patriotism in Chicopee still counts. Thank you from the United States of America.
Thank you, Congressman. It's always a joy to have you with us. At this time, conflict by conflict, I will recite a quote and some numbers that are quite staggering, and I will have our veterans and cadets lay our wreaths. Civil war. In every battle, there comes a time when both sides consider themselves beaten. Then he who continues to attack wins. Ulysses S. Grant. Here in Chicopee, within our borders, we have 515 Civil War veterans laid to rest. Please lay the wreath. World War I. What are we fighting for? I can reply in 2 sentences. In the first place, to fulfill a solemn international obligation, an obligation of honor which no self-respecting man could possibly have repudiated. I say secondly, we are fighting to vindicate the principle that small nationalities are not to be crushed in defiance of international good faith at the arbitrary will of a strong and overmastering power. Winston Churchill. Within our borders, over 1,573 World War I veterans lay to rest. Please lay the wreath. World War II. Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few. Again, Winston Churchill. Within our walls, there is a staggering 6,285 World War II veterans laid here. Please lay the wreath. The Korean War. Our nation honors her sons and daughters who answered the call to defend a country they never knew and people they never met. It is the inscription on the Korean War Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. In Chicopee lie 1,375 veterans who fought in that conflict. Please lay that wreath. Vietnam. Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe, to ensure the survival and success of liberty. J.F. Kennedy. We have over 1,000 Vietnam veterans laid to rest here in Chicopee, and so many of our residents have gone to the Agawam Veterans Memorial Cemetery. Please lay that wreath. The global war on terror preceded 9/11, but here is my quote. The attacks of 9/11 were intended to break our spirit. Instead, we have emerged stronger and more unified. We feel renewed devotion to the principles of political, economic, and religious freedom, the rule of law, and respect of human life. We are more determined than ever to live our lives in freedom. Rudy Giuliani. This monument depicts 7 names of those that we've lost, again, preceding 9/11 to include Beirut, and as recently as only a couple years ago with Master Sergeant De Leon Figueroa. We continue to honor everyone who's laid to rest here and remember all of our veterans and those who we lost. Please, lay the wreath. That's why you're there.
Fire squad, prepare to fire!
I really, 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 from the bottom of my heart, appreciate each and every one of you coming out today, honoring our friends, our brothers, our sisters, our family, generations before us, our neighbors, and our constituents. I look forward to seeing all of you at the lunch. It'll begin at noon at the Knights of Columbus on Granby Road. You are all invited, and I look forward to breaking bread with each of you.